Even though it's scorching hot outside, the Bay Area housing market has been cooling down ever so slightly in different parts of the Bay. The question is, why is this happening? And what does this mean if you are a potential home buyer or home seller in the Bay Area marketplace? Coming up on this Silicon Valley Snapshot. The Bay Area housing market conditions have been rather puzzling the last 6 months or so. And this month's data is not going to make things any less confusing. And so we're going to get into the market data and why certain areas are cooling down all of a sudden. But before we do that, before we get into the data, if you're a home buyer in today's marketplace and you're trying to figure out if now's the right time for you to buy, if you're looking for a comprehensive data set to assist you in your home buying decision making, you can text the word data plus the area or the zip code or the neighborhood that you're looking in, and we will get that information sent straight to your inbox. And if you're a home seller in today's marketplace and you're trying to figure out how to price your property appropriately for the market conditions today, you can text the word data plus your property address to the number down below, and we will get that information sent straight to your inbox. The July numbers are in from Trend Graphix, and we are just gonna delve straight into it because there is a lot to cover. Starting off with Santa Clara County. If you've been watching these videos for any period of time, you'll know that a few weeks ago I went into what I believed was going to happen with Santa Clara County, and Santa Clara County is behaving almost spot on with how I predicted it would behave, which is flat inventory levels and slightly declining pending inventory or pending activity. So when we look at the month of July, we see 845 homes pending on the market right now and 802 homes active on the market. So pendings are still outpacing supply. Now, what does this mean? That means we have more demand quantifiably than supply, which of course, if you know basic economic theory, means that we are in a white hot seller's market. Anytime pendings are outpacing supply, that is recipe for a very competitive market. And that is exactly what we're seeing in Santa Clara right now. Now, if we look at the trailing 3 months, so if we look at May, June, July, we have seen basically a flatlining of inventory. So no new homes coming on the market, no new inventory coming on the market month over month. We're seeing a very stable amount of inventory. What's changing are the pending sales. And if you have been watching these videos for a long period of time, you'll know that typically during the summer months, we see a decline in pending activity. So this is not abnormal behavior. Now, news of rates increasing just broke this last week. And so that I'm sure is going to play into things, but that was news that broke way too late for it to have any sort of meaningful impact on the pending inventory in July. So let's see how that news impacts the Santa Clara County pending activity specifically over the next 30, 60, 90 days. But right now what we're seeing is a very frothy market for home sellers. And if you're a home buyer, your only saving grace right now is that, a couple buyers went out of town. Okay. And so instead of going up against maybe 10 offers on a property, you're going up against 7 or 8. Not much is changing for you. At the end of the day, homes are still selling well above asking price right now in Santa Clara County. I've seen many posts from my friends here recently. I have agents who are writing on my team offers every single week, and I am seeing homes going $100, $150, $200,000 over list price time and time again. And so still a great time to be a home seller in Santa Clara County. And if you're a home buyer, what you really want to pay attention to is what the rates are going to do to demand. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is that rates are manipulatable at the click of a button. And so rates going up right now is actually a favor to home buyers. If you want my opinion, I think that rates coming up is actually a favor to buyers because it's eliminating some of your competition. Okay. So you're going to have less competition. You could theoretically get a better price on a home than if the rates were, say, staying flat or going down. And later on in time, if and when the rates come down, you can then refinance into a better rate. Now, this is a universal blanket statement. There are edge cases here and there. So that's why it's important, to consult with me, to consult with my team, or to consult with whoever you trust in the real estate space to help you make the decision that's best for you. But right now, the rates going up by a little bit shouldn't necessarily scare you off if you're a buyer. In fact, if I were in a buying position right now, what I'd really be looking at is how much more could rates go up? Am I willing to hold out, potentially have rates go up even more? That's really up to you. I mean, it's not a decision for me to make, but there are some buyers who are holding out for rates to come down. The problem is that when rates come down, prices are going to go up. more than they already have. And so rates coming down is not going to do you as a buyer any favors. Rates going up actually does improve your competition or improves your ability to get a home at a better price. You can lock in a better price right now. And then when rates come back down, if rates come back down, obviously that is a hypothetical, you're going to be locking in theoretically a better price, and in the future refinancing once rates come down and locking in the better rate. Heading on up to San Mateo County, we have 491 homes active on the market, 326 homes pending. So if we look at what's happening from June to July, not much has changed in San Mateo County. So we're seeing a slight decrease in inventory levels, see a slight decrease in pending activity. So the market conditions are in effect neutral. Not much has changed from month to month because the delta, the difference between active inventory and pending sales, has remained relatively steady. And so if you are a home buyer and home seller in San Mateo, not much has changed, and not much is probably going to change for the next couple of months. As we ride into the fall and as we ride into September and October timeframe, things might change. But right now, if you're looking to buy a home in August, probably going to have good market conditions. If you're a seller, it's not great market conditions. And for buyers, you're going to have competition depending on the type of property that you're buying. So if you're looking at a condo or a townhome, you're probably going to have less competition. If you're looking at a single family home in San Mateo County, chances are you are going up against multiple offers. It's not quite as hot as it is in Santa Clara County, but it's still competitive. And so there are still instances of homes going way over asking in San Mateo County. It's less prevalent, but it is still happening. And the data is here to support it because the absorption rate in San Mateo County right now is still indicative of a seller's market. And this is taking into account condos and townhomes. So when you strip away the condos and townhomes, you're looking at an even more competitive seller's market in San Mateo County when we're focused just on single families. Heading on up to San Francisco, not much of a story here. We are seeing pretty much flatlined inventory levels for the last 3 months, 4 or 5 months, really. We've seen, 949 in March, then 1,000. So inventory levels have fluctuated and stayed in like that, 950 to 1050 range. Right now, we're right there in the middle at 993 homes active on the market. Now, the intriguing thing is that pending sales have come down fairly dramatically in the last month. We have seen over a 25% decrease in pending sales month over month from June to July. That is something to keep our eye on. Now, keep in mind that pending activity tends to wane in the summer months. This is not new. This is very standard practice here in the Bay Area. Pretty much every single county sees a dip in pending activity in the summer months. I know that most people think that summer is the best time to sell. It's actually one of the worst times to sell in the Bay Area. We see much better activity both in the spring and the fall when buyers are in town and they are much more in their routine and the rhythm. When buyers get out of their rhythm and their routine, they go on vacations, they go out of town, they've got graduations, they've got wedding ceremonies, they've got Christmas, they've got Thanksgiving, they've got family events in the winter. During the summer and the winter months, we tend to see pending activity drop off here in the Bay Area. And this has been a consistent theme now for forever. And so this is not overly surprising. It is surprising to see the big drop percentage wise. But that being said, it is something to keep our eye on as we move into the fall months, but not too surprising. Definitely something to monitor though. Now going over to the East Bay, this is where things are getting interesting. Starting with Contra Costa County, we have 955 homes active on the market, 738 homes pending. So we saw both an increase in supply and a decrease in demand. This is a recipe for a softening in market conditions. And so when we look at last month's data, we're looking at what's happening right now. This is definitely something that we want to continue to monitor as we move into the fall months here in Contra Costa County. Now, one thing to mention is if you've been watching my videos for any period of time, you'll know that this is something that I expected to happen here, or at least predicted could happen in the summer months. If we look back at 2017, which was a very similar market to the one that we're in right now, I wouldn't say that it's identical, but it was definitely a competitive environment. And if we look at the East Bay specifically, we see that in June of 2017, we had pendings outpacing supply, much how we do right now in Contra Costa County. Now, that flipped in July of 2017, where we had 2,704 homes active on the market and 2,403 homes pending. Now, it is important to note that this is Contra Costa and Alameda combined. We're about to see Alameda has a very similar narrative. So this data that we're seeing from before supports what we're seeing right now, meaning it supports that this is not an anomaly, that we could still have good market conditions in the fall, even though we're seeing this slight softening in the market right now. If you look at 2017, later on in that year, we saw pendings once again outpacing supply ever so slightly. And in the fall of 2017, it was definitely a very steady market. It wasn't a crazy white hot market. And so this is something to keep our eye on, because if we start to see this delta increase over time, meaning we start to see pendings and active inventory grow further and further apart, so inventory grows and pendings decline month over month over month, that is something to definitely keep our eye on. Right now, I wouldn't say there's any cause for concern. Now, if you're a home seller and you're like, hey, I need to sell in 2023, then you should really be putting your home on the market right now, because you're really hedging your bets. Either things are going to stay relatively flat for the next 5 months or so, if history is going to repeat itself like it did in 2017. And if that happens, then essentially you are going to sell practically at the same price today as you would 5 to 6 months from now. But you're hedging against the other possibility, which is, maybe things don't repeat themselves and we start to see a divergence here and we start to see supply outpace pendings even more. Then we're going to get into a situation possibly where prices come down a little bit. And so if I were a seller in the East Bay, I would highly consider putting my home on the market sooner rather than later, because we don't know if this trend is going to continue or not. And so when we spot a trend like this and there is an urgency to sell, meaning there is a time frame by which we have to sell in. Now, if you don't have to sell in the next 6 months and you're like, hey, I like to, but I want to maximize my profits, or I want to really maximize the amount of money that I sell my home for, then you might want to consider just kind of holding off for a little bit, monitoring the situation, figure out what's going to happen. Because if things stay like they were in 2017, meaning we see basically a stabilization in the market in the fall, what's likely to happen is we are likely going to see a very frothy spring market for sellers. And so if you hold off for a little bit and you're able to hold off for a little bit, then waiting till the springtime could probably bring you better results. But if you're on a time crunch and you want to hedge your bets against having to be in a really unfortunate situation in November, December timeframe, then you might want to consider putting on your home on the market sooner rather than later. And as I previously mentioned, same story here in Alameda County, 819 homes active on the market, 685 homes pending. We have seen a slight divergence from what has happened in previous months where pendings were outpacing supply. We are now seeing supply outpace pending sales. And so same message, same story as Contra Costa County. If you're a home seller and you need to sell in the next 6 months, now might be the right time to be having those conversations so that you can get ahead of it, because the worst case scenario is that these trends continue and we see more competition come on the market, which means that you're going to have a harder time selling your home, and definitely a harder time selling it for the highest possible price. Now, this is a very interesting time right now, because one of the biggest concerns that I'm hearing with buyers is that the rates are really high right now. And by no means am I saying that they're low. In fact, I would agree that rates are definitely much higher than we've seen in the past decade. And that can definitely be a tough pill to swallow. But that being said, right now, we've seen a lot of resilience in the marketplace with these higher rates. And either one of two things is going to happen. Either interest rates are going to flatline and or go up, or they will go down. And if you're a buyer in the marketplace right now, what you want to consider is, if and when either of these scenarios comes true, what would that mean for me if I bought a home today? All right. So if we just think about this real quickly, if rates go up or they flatline, right? And so if in 3 years from now, all rates have done is stay the same or go up, what that means for you is that you will have locked in the best interest rate possible, which is a good thing. Because if rates go up, then obviously your monthly payments are going to go up. Not to mention that historically speaking, prices tend to go up. So even if rates were to stay the same and or go up a little bit, then chances are in a 3 to 5 year time horizon, we're looking at increased prices, even if rates do continue to stay where they're at or go up. And that is almost a guarantee. Now, if you are on the opposite and we are looking at interest rates and we're saying, we're probably going to see the interest rates come down a little bit. And that's what we're waiting for. Well, what you're waiting for is actually for prices to go up. Because when rates come down, historically speaking, what that does to demand is it brings a new wave of buyers into the marketplace, and we start to see prices go up at a much higher rate. And so if you're waiting for interest rates to come down or rates come down, and that's when you buy, you're essentially waiting for rates to come down, but that's going to be negated by the price increase. Versus if you buy today, what happens is you lock in a great price right now, prices go up, but when rates come down, you can then refinance into the better rate. And so there's very little reason for most home buyers right now who are watching this video to not make a move. If you look at prices where they're at today versus where they were at a year ago, you are still getting a discount on a house. Now, this was much more true about 4 to 5 months ago. So if you've been watching these videos for a long time, you'll know that I was pretty adamant early on in the springtime that this was looking like we were gearing up for a pretty healthy spring market. And that came true. We saw prices appreciate, and we saw lots of multiple offer situations, and we did see massive equity increases over the last 6 months. And so if you're a home buyer and you're sitting on the sidelines right now, then you're probably kicking yourself for not making a move. But the truth is you're still getting a better price than you would have gotten if you had bought a year ago. And so there's very little reason right now. I'm seeing very little reason for buyers to hold off unless there are personal reasons why you cannot make a purchase right now. If you're a seller, the only reason to sell right now would be if like there's a need to move. If you've watched my video from last week or 2 weeks ago, I did say that I do think that next spring is going to be a much better time to sell. I think the prices are going to continue to go up steadily over the next 6 months. And then we're going to see a very white hot spring market because there's a lot of pent up demand right now. There's a lot of buyers who haven't bought. Inventory levels are super low. And so there's only so much time can go by before this pent up demand expresses itself and comes out and just buys the house, and they say, screw it, we're going to buy it. And so at that point, I do believe that we're going to see a fairly large increase in pending sales next spring. Now, that being said, there is still a lot of time left between now and the end of the year. So we're going to continue to monitor the data. We're going to continue to look at this because the truth is that this is dynamic. And so in a few months, if we start to see inventory levels continue to outpace pending sales for the next 2, 3, 4 months, then I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen. What I'm looking at though is historical data to make these assessments and to make these predictions, because historically speaking, if I look back at 2017, which I feel is a very similar market to the one that we're in right now, from a demand versus supply standpoint, then it stands to reason that we will see a boom at the beginning of 2024, much like we did at the beginning of 2018. If you made it this far in the video and you have not yet subscribed, what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to get notified every single time we post a new snapshot just like this one to stay up to date with the latest Bay Area housing market statistics. This is Danny Gold, everyone, selling Silicon Valley, and I will catch all of you in the next video.